The Queen stage of La Vuelta, will Remco Evenepoel crack and lose the red jersey? 152.6 kilometers long. No one really knew what the exact finish was. It'd been changed and then gone back, but it was the highest point of the race, 2,500 meters in altitude, 23 Ks, about 6.77%, and it starts with the 4 Ks, 11% Hazellanas climb. So with the climb starting extremely steep and then leveling off, it would be important to have riders ahead in the breakaway who might be able to help you afterwards. That seemed to be Jumbo-Visma's plan. They got Dennis and Omen in the break, but other teams got riders in the break too. Ineos with Carapaz, Hindley was there on GC, Quickstep were pacing because, I don't know, they were keeping it pretty tight. I guess they don't want to let it get too out of hand. It was a 30-man deep break. There's Vivaika in the break for them. Tymon Arensman, the closest on GC, 11th, just 2 seconds behind Ben O'Connor in 10th. That'll be important later, but a strong breakaway, that's the one they decide to let go. Quickstep have the gap at 6 minutes before AG2R, wanting to protect O'Connor's GC position, start pacing because of DSM's Tymon Arensman, and they pretty much start climbing out of Granada here. Craddock got ahead of the breakaway, and AG2R, I mean, they took the gap in too quickly. Went 6 minutes and then like 3:40, but then their rider blew up, and then Jungels let the gap go out again, and Hindley was pacing hard on the climb. Dennis and Vine. Well, Dennis is trying to stay ahead because he needs some wiggle room on that Hazellanas 11% climb that starts Sierra Nevada if he's going to be a satellite rider for Jumbo-Visma, because he's going to lose time. And Vine is worried about AG2R chasing the break back because Tymon Arensman, and he wants to win the stage, and he also wants to take points, which he does, bridges across to Craddock, and then AG2R run out of men again. So Jumbo, they want to let the gap go out again so Dennis can get over Hazellanas, it seems. So it wasn't going all to plan for Jumbo-Visma as they might have hoped at this point, especially when Quickstep still have Louis Vivaca, who did make over Alto de Parque with David de la Cruz for Astana, who's a satellite rider, maybe reluctantly, for Miguel Angel Lopez, who's sitting about 6 on GC. So Vine seems to just let the breakaway come back to him, and Hessing starts pacing again, and Dennis and Omen come back. So we're about to do a 6K 5% climb. Jumbo-Visma do pace hard there, but how much help can they be on these steep slopes where Soler goes solo? Vivek is just doing his own tempo to make it over the top as well, but David de la Cruz stays with that group, and then all hell breaks loose. We didn't see exactly what happened. I think there's a corner into the base of Hazalana Sierra Nevada, and Omen's just sprinting away. And unfortunately for Roglic, this wasn't choreographed too well. Harper is bridging Evenepoel back to Roglic's wheel. Roglic isn't really on anybody's wheel. The riders that really got stuffed by this huge acceleration were Juan Ayuso, who you see in the white jersey way back there. Evenepoel, with Harper off the back, just goes to the front, kind of like when Pogacar was pacing on Galibier. But here, because it's so steep, the draft benefit's negligible. He, I guess, figures if I pace, I keep Harper behind, and then it's just mano a mano against Roglic. And this is the base of a 1 hour climb to 2,500 meters. Eventually, Harper does come back up. He's been very good for Jumbo, starts pacing. And Almeida, who probably started the climb 10 seconds back with Ayuso, they're just behind the 8 ball the entire climb. Rodriguez is brought back by Gegenhardt here, but again, that Watt spike draft is only so important on 11-13%. Does that cost him in the end if he fades, when he fades at the end of this climb? And Harper is pushing really hard. He has Rodriguez under pressure when Roglic accelerates, and Rodriguez is dropped pretty quickly after. And this is the moment. Does Evenepoel get dropped? And even if he does, though, because Dennis and Omen weren't up the road, how much can Roglic put in with the shallow gradients afterwards? Well, unfortunately for Roglic, it looked like Evenepoel was at least on his level on this climb today, unlike on Sierra de la Pandera yesterday. And you even see him here having a look back to see, is Roglic bluffing? Why has he gone to the back? Roglic rarely bluffs, actually. Aronson was the strongest in the breakaway. He was pushing after Soler, and this gap, you see, it was 2:22. They've been holding it stable, and you see visually, this is the end of the steep part of Hazellanas. It levels off. You want the draft. The draft is so important on this section, and it's not at high altitude yet. And Remco Evenepoel has it in his savior, Louis Vivaca. They're doing like 30 kilometers an hour plus on this section, and this neutralizes the stage for a good 20 minutes. Roglic can't attack. He's recovering. Carapaz is pacing back. Rodriguez and Almeida comes back and probably should have started pacing. And David de la Cruz, with Miguel Angel Lopez, the stage favorite, the break losing no time at all, isn't dangling in the middle for an attack from Miguel Angel Lopez, which is kind of curious because Lopez does attack. He's looking good, but he's attacking at like 30 35 k's an hour. It's on a 3-4% section. He's spending a lot. Mas attacks across to him. Roglic doesn't go with him, which is perhaps a tell that he wasn't feeling too great. Otherwise, it would have made sense to go with him. Vivek is still pacing, and here you see Almeida and Ayuso make a huge mistake here. Carapaz had been in the break, so I believe one of them could have tried to bridge across. They're 5 seconds, 4 seconds behind the Viveka, Remco, O'Connor, Roglic group, but they don't. They rely on the pacing of Carapaz, and Enric Mas is able to bridge across to the both of them, whilst this gap with Remco going on the front goes back from 7 seconds back out to 30 seconds to the group of Ayuso Almeida. Remco's holding the gap pretty stable between De La Cruz pacing Mas and Lopez. He's just doing his power, 30 seconds behind. Mas is 250 behind him in GC. Aronsman clearly the strongest from the break, attacks the break. Soler had a gap of 40 seconds. He eats into that. In about 1.5 kilometers, he reaches across to him and then drops him 200 meters later. Absolutely flying. Perfect climb for him, for his weight and power profile. And he takes his first Vuelta stage on the Queen stage from the breakaway and moves up multiple positions in GC, leapfrogging O'Connor. But behind it was kind of a stalemate. Yes, it looked like the race might explode on Hazelanus, but Evenepoel is just ripping the gap open to Carapaz, who's going backwards behind him, and is keeping the gap still completely stable, kilometer by kilometer, as Ayuso and Almeida eventually attack Rodriguez in a bit of a peculiar way, eventually works out. Mas and Lopez, despite their differences, kind of work together, but I do feel like they could have got more out of the stage. They had great legs. Soler doesn't drop back quick enough, even though there's Almeida and Ayuso behind. So he may be hung on too long. And Evenepoel, I mean, it's not that exciting. He's just tapping out his rhythm 30 seconds behind these guys before Roglic attacks with O'Connor. And you might be saying, well, was Roglic stronger on the stage? He'd been sitting in the draft for 7, 8 kilometers, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. Evenepoel is happy to give that away, with Mas actually beating Lopez to the line, taking 6 bonus seconds. Roglic, 15 seconds on Evenepoel, who didn't crack, didn't collapse or capitulate, held on fine, and goes into the second rest day with a very, very nice GC lead. But here's the stage results. Aaron's been winning the stage 123 ahead of Mas, 125 ahead of Lopez, then Vine, the second best of the break, on 130. Then Roglic, O'Connor, Ayuso actually beat Evenepoel despite not probably having the best climb possible. Evenepoel 10th on 159. GC, though, again, not huge changes. Well, no changes in the top three. Mas gains more time back on Roglic. Remco has a 134 lead on Roglic. Mas on 201. Ayuso leapfrogs Rodriguez into fourth on 449. But I hope you enjoy the video. Rest day tomorrow. It's a pretty easy third week of this Vuelta. Make sure you check out the Lantern Rouge Cycling Podcast to hear our preview of it dropping tomorrow afternoon. Till then, ciao.